Imagine you're a manager of a big company with many employees and contractors. You need to control who can access which resources, like buildings or sensitive data. In the cloud, this is similar to managing identities and access. We'll build a GCP Workload Identity Federation setup to simplify identity management across our Google Cloud Platform projects. This matters because it helps keep our resources secure and compliant. We'll learn how to set up Workload Identity Federation and why it's essential for DevOps and security teams. Workload Identity Federation is like a universal ID card that allows employees or contractors to access specific resources across different departments or companies. In GCP, this means that a workload, like a Kubernetes service, can access resources in another project without needing to manage multiple credentials. This concept exists because managing identities and access in the cloud can be complex, especially when dealing with multiple projects or services. We use Workload Identity Federation to simplify this process and improve security. The benefits include better access control, reduced credential management, and improved compliance. Think of it like a single sign-on system for your cloud workloads. Let's walk through the architecture diagram of GCP Workload Identity Federation. We have a workload in one project that needs to access a resource in another project. The workload uses a service account to authenticate with the Workload Identity Federation service. This service then issues an access token that allows the workload to access the resource. The components include the workload, the service account, the Workload Identity Federation service, and the resource. The connections between these components show how the workload uses the service account to get an access token and then access the resource. To set up GCP Workload Identity Federation, you'll need a Google Cloud account, the Google Cloud CLI, and a Kubernetes cluster. The Google Cloud CLI is necessary for managing your GCP resources from the command line. The Kubernetes cluster is where your workload will run. You'll also need to install the Cloud CLI tool to interact with your GCP resources. When deciding between using Workload Identity Federation and other identity management solutions, consider the simplicity and security of Workload Identity Federation. It's designed specifically for GCP workloads and integrates well with Kubernetes. Other solutions might require more complex setup and management. To enable Workload Identity Federation, we need to create a service account and a workload identity pool. The service account will be used by our workload to authenticate, and the workload identity pool will define the identity of our workload. This step is crucial because it sets up the foundation for our Workload Identity Federation setup. Think of it like creating a new employee ID card and defining the access level of that employee. Now that we have our service account and workload identity pool, we need to configure Workload Identity Federation. This involves setting up the connection between our workload and the Workload Identity Federation service. We'll use the Cloud CLI to update our workload service account to use the workload identity pool. This step is important because it establishes the trust between our workload and the Workload Identity Federation service. Let's walk through the process flow of setting up Workload Identity Federation. We start by creating a workload identity pool, then we create a service account for our workload. Next, we configure the workload to use the service account and the workload identity pool. After that, we test the setup to ensure our workload can access the desired resources. If we encounter any issues, we troubleshoot and adjust our configuration as needed. To verify that our Workload Identity Federation setup is working, we can check the GCP console. We'll look for the workload identity pool and the service account, and ensure that our workload is using the correct credentials to access the desired resources. We can also check the audit logs to see if there are any issues with authentication or authorization. When setting up Workload Identity Federation, some common issues include misconfigured service accounts, incorrect workload identity pool settings, or issues with the workload's credentials. To troubleshoot, we can check the audit logs, verify the service account and workload identity pool configurations, and ensure that the workload is using the correct credentials. By following these steps, we can identify and fix the issues. In this tutorial, we learned how to set up GCP Workload Identity Federation to simplify identity management across our GCP projects. We walked through the architecture, configured the setup, and verified that it's working. With Workload Identity Federation, we can improve access control, reduce credential management complexity, and enhance compliance. Remember, managing identities and access is crucial for securing our cloud resources. Subscribe for daily in-depth DevOps tutorials explained in simple terms.